So and we had looked at this diagram which kind of explained how does it look like in the real cells, that is after adding a cell into 20% sucrose solution, that is hypertonic outside, the cell shrinks, rather the cell membrane shrinks or plasma membrane shrinks, and when you put it back into the distilled water, it regains its turbidity. So uh, that is what we had looked at in the last classes, and we had looked at few of the factors important in turbidity, that is closing and opening of the stomata. I hope you remember the stomatal structure. These were the two guard cells that are being present, and the opening is called as stomata. When these guard cells they are turgid, the stomata is open. When the guard cells they are flaccid, the stomata is closed because there is no opening. So that is opening and closing of stomata. Then growth of cells, that is the cells they enlarge, and because of that, like obviously they enlarge because of the turbidity, because of which the nutrients they can get transported across the cell and so on, and that is why it is also one of the important factor in the uh, growth of the cells. Then dispersion of the seed, again this also we had looked at. Whenever there is turbid pressure being built up inside the fruit or sporangia like structure, which is spore containing structure, and due to the increased turbidity, the sporangia or the fruits will break open, like literally split up, and they will throw away the seeds or the spores, and that way the dispersion happens. And giving mechanical support, again this we had looked at. Because of the turbidity of the cells, the plant can stay upright, that is because of the turgid pressure inside the cell. Now the next point that we are going to start looking at is the germination. Now how does this germination helps in the growth, or how does the turgor pressure helps in the germination process? Now again a simple thing, whenever you soak a seed inside water or in water, then the due to the process of imbibition, water is absorbed, and then more and more water is absorbed, and then it leads to finally turbidity of the cell. First it is imbibition, that is only surface phenomena. When there is more and more water, it is osmosis process, and then due to the increased water content inside the seed, the embryo starts swelling up as it increases in size, and it leads to the growth of that particular tissue, which is kind of, then it goes under division and so on. That is the first step in the germination. Now it also helps in the movement of nutrient solution. This we had discussed in the last class itself. The osmosis and diffusion, they keep on happening due to certain movements within the cell sac, or certain movements due to the absorption of the water by the roots. So due to this, all these factors, there will always be a movement of nutrient solution from cell to cell, and that will cause like a difference in the concentration of the cells from one cell to the other, and obviously then it will again lead to turgor pressure in those particular cell wherever the concentration is increasing, and this process goes on until the tip of the leaf, and then from the leaf water is gone out through transpiration. This turgidity is also very important for the growth of different organ. Again the same point, just explained differently, because different organ is referring to different parts of the plant, for example leaf, stem and so on. And again there also they need lot of nutrition, and that is possible due to the process of turgor pressure being built up within those cells. And of course it helps in maintaining the plants rigid and upright due to all the cells, and it also result in a depletion of the cells up. Okay, there is some correction in the statement, you can forget this statement, but the depletion of the cells can happen, which will again lead to the water moving out, and because of that it causes the wilting of the plant. Wilting, I will discuss this sometime later in maybe 2 slides later. But wilting is something when you don't water the plant and the leaf of that particular plant, which is not water for 2-3 days, they just hang like they are almost about to die, right? So that phenomena is called as wilting. So that is the one important part. Now, in terms of uses of this turgidity actually provides quite a lot of rigidity to the soft tissues such as leaves. Now you imagine how tender these leaves are when they are just sprouting. You can look at the diagram here that is just showing different stages of germination from a seed to a kind of sapling. So when this transition is happening, there is like usually a quite a lot of turgor pressure, and that is the reason why this leaf, even though they are so tender, they are able to stand upright. The reason is turgidity. Now when there is not enough water in the leaf, it wilts. So you can simply imagine, like when you have not filled the balloon completely with let's say air, there is always a gap and then it can keep hanging. But if you fill it to the its distended position, it stays upright in the sense in whichever direction it stays like very hard. So that way, when there is not enough water, the leaves they usually will, that is the petiole and the lamina becomes loose. Petiole is the stalk of the leaf and the lamina is the whole surface of the leaf. So they become loose and the leaf kind of droops down. Yeah, like I said, it just like looks like it's hanging structure. The wilting of leaves is usually noticed when a plant is exposed to hot afternoon sun and when the amount of water lost during transpiration is more than the water absorbed through the root. So if you know, water is continuously getting absorbed by the root and there is always a water loss through the transpiration. Now, if water loss through transpiration is more and the water that is absorbed by the roots is less, obviously plant does not have more water or sufficient water. And that is the phenomena which happens usually in the hot weather, and that is ultimately will lead to the wilting of the leaves. Now, there are other ways also in which this wilting can happen. So, for example, in the evenings, when transpiration is reduced, the quantity of water absorbed exceeds the loss of water. So, whatever water was lost is less, and whatever water is absorbed by the roots is more now. And that way, the turgidity of the leaf cell is again restored, and leaves again they stand out as it they again regain their regular position. So that is the wilting of the leaves and why it is important. Now, if you imagine if a particular case study or situation is given to you, like let's say there is a plant in a desert where the temperature is 45 to 50 degrees every day. So, and the plants, they are always wilted. What is the reason? So the reason is the amount of transpiration is more, so water loss is more compared to the water that is absorbed by the roots. So the plants, they undergo wilting, or rather the leaves undergo wilting. Sorry, I must mention to you that we should never say wilting of the plant. It has to be wilting of the leaves. So even if I say that, it is totally wrong. It is always wilting of the leaves and not wilting of the plant. I just noticed it that I said something wrong. So please make a correction if you are taking notes. It's always wilting of leaves and not of a plant, because it's just the leaf structure that droops down and not the whole plant. And whenever the water absorption rate is more than the transpiration, then obviously the turgidity is restored, so the plant regain its shape. And turgidity or the turgor pressure also helps to push through the hard ground. Now again, this is one of the phenomena how the turgidity helps to provide a lot of rigidity to soft tissue. The sprout is actually very soft, but how does it push through the ground is because of the turgor pressure that is built inside those cells, and that is how it pushed through the ground and comes out as a sapling later. Okay, any question anyone so far? Okay, so I assume there are no questions to anyone. Then just a small experimental setup kind of thing. We'll go through it. So turgor in root cells or turgor pressure in root cells builds up the root pressure. Now we know what turgor pressure is. Because of this turgor pressure, there is a root pressure which is built up. And so what is this root pressure? We'll see here. So let's say cut a well-watered pot plant and a few centimeter above the soil. So if you see this green stem, there was a complete plant and it is cut here, right? A few centimeters above the soil. And like fix the glass tube to it using a rubber connection. So what you see here is a glass tube is fixed with a rubber connection. Water will start coming out of the cut. So because there is well watered pot and the roots will keep absorbing, the water will keep flowing upward. It will not know if there are leaves above or not, but the regular absorption of the water by the roots will keep on happening irrespective of the leaves being there or not being there, and this water will push upward. Now this rising water can raise the mercury filled in the connected manometer. Manometer is nothing but just a graduated tube with filled mercury. So that is manometer. It's usually used to measure the volumes and so on. So this upward flow is due to the heavy pressure from the roots, which is called as root pressure. So the pressure which is pushing this water or the mercury upward in this tube is called as root pressure. Now, if you see the earlier level of the mercury, this gray thing is here. Now, because there is continuous absorption of water, this water level goes down. So it will ultimately push the mercury upward. And that way there is increase in volume. That is a direct indication that the stem or the roots, they are pushing the water upward into this glass tube, ultimately increasing the mercury level. That is just a simpler experiment to prove that there is something called as root pressure. Now, due to this root pressure, the water, which is ultimately from the cell sap, can rise in the tube or in the stem in natural conditions. So if it is not cut or if it is not attached to this tube and naturally it is just cut, you can see still the water level or the water will come out of that stem up to a certain height only, that there is only a little loss. And because obviously after a while the plant tissues, they will become dead and they will stop conducting water. So that way. And loss of water through the cut stem is called as bleeding. Now, bleeding is another phenomena, right? For example, if you cut the stem, not like cut completely, but just make a injury to the stem, like a deep wound on the stem of on the trunk of the tree, then the water comes out from there. Again, you may not see this always. This is very specific phenomena with very specific plants, and also the water content of the soil and of the surrounding has to be more. If it is hot weather, this will not happen because the transpiration is the more favored mechanism than bleeding. But bleeding is nothing but when you cut the stem a bit, like a deep wound, the water starts coming out, and that loss of water through the cut in a stem is called as bleeding. This is literally like how like whenever we have a wound and the blood oozes out from that wound, that is something similar. But in plant, obviously it's not the blood, but it is the water. So that is root pressure and the bleeding. And definition of the root pressure: the pressure developed in the roots due to the continuous or continued inward movement of water, that is in the root, through the cell to cell osmosis, which helps in the ascent of the cell sap to upward through the stem. This ascent means increase or upward movement of the cell sap, right, through the stem. Cell sap, you already know the movement, you can totally understand. So it is just the simple pressure which is built up due to the continuous movement of water, that is upward movement of water. And why that movement happen is because of the cell to cell osmosis, Why that osmosis happen is because of the cell sap. Cell sap is more concentrated outside. In the soil there is less concentration of the solute, so water will move inside the cells of the root, and then from cell to cell osmosis water will keep moving upward, and whatever that pressure is built up, that is called as root pressure. Again, I hope this part is clear. What is root pressure? How does it help? Which is more clear probably in this experiment. So I hope there are no questions in that. Then opening and closing of stomata we had studied earlier, so I'm not going to go here again, but you can just mention that most important thing, you need to label these cells as guard cells and the opening as stomata. These structures, they will always remain because these are ultimately cell. So there will be cell wall, there will be nucleus, there will be vacuole, chloroplast, and so on. They will always be there, but you need not label them always. But these two things for sure you need to mention, that is guard cells and the stoma or stomata, and closing closed stage of stomata and the open stage of stomata. So that is most important. This is again a turgid stage. This is a flaccid stage of the guard cells. Then the Turgor movement. Now, Turgor movement is again something similar to what we had looked in terms of the upward movement of water. Now, the rapid drooping of the leaves of the sensitive plant, for example, Mimosa pudica. This is, what is that? Shy plant? What is it? Touch me not. Yeah, touch me not plant, right? Like that particular plant is actually an example of Turgor movement, right? Now you know what exactly happens in that touch me not plant. If one leaf is touched, then even lightly, the leaves they fold up within 2-3 seconds. Now it depends on not always 2-3 seconds, but it can be immediate as well. Depends on how much is the water content or the turgor pressure inside, and the entire leaves they droop. If the leaf is touched somewhat strongly, the wave of folding or rather the drooping, it spreads faster, and then like all of that phenomenon. But that is what I want to mention here is that is because of the turgidity of the cells within those leaf structure. Now you might wonder, how does it happen? So obviously there are certain cells which are sensitive to the touch. Now you have heard of probably sensors, right, which are artificial sensors which you use outside in the electronic devices. Something similar like protein in nature, they exist, which are sensitive to touch, and they allow certain sequence of change in the events which will ultimately cause the turgor movement to build up the pressure. So that is like kind of mechanism why that touch me not plant closes and opens up the leaves. Now, in this part, the stimulus of touch leads to loss of turgor at the base of leaflet and the petiole, which is called as pulvinus, specifically in that part. So the base of the leaflet and the petiole is called as pulvinus, not anything else. But again, you need not remember this part. But yeah, if at all there is a MCQ type of question, they might ask this pulvinus, the question based on pulvinus. Again, another example is the insectivorous plant. Now, I assume you have heard of what are these insectivorous plants. They actually are kind of carnivorous plants. Carnivorous plants in the sense they eat insect. So they will trap the insect and they will release certain chemicals so that the insect parts gets digested, and then they are being absorbed through the layers of those structure. So they also show, yes.
Does the insect get digested while it's alive?
Not really. It's obviously becomes dead over the time.
Like while it's getting digested, it dies?
Yeah. It's like a snake swallowing a live organism and then slowly it's dying. Something similar there. It's not. It's the nature's phenomenon. Okay, so these insectivorous plants, they show somewhat similar turgor movements, and again that closing and opening is again like touch sensitive, as and when the prey gets like sits on that particular structure which is going to entrap the insect or the prey, it that structure will sense it. It's usually spiky so that it can poke into the prey as well, and it's like so sudden you can imagine the release of that turgor moment over the time. So that is just one small mechanism that you need to be aware of. The bending moment of certain flowers. So these are again examples of different turgor movement. One is touch me not, second is insectivorous plant, and third one is sunflower that you commonly know. It always faces the sun side, right, or the east. That's how we commonly see. So that bending of this certain flower towards the sun, bless you, towards the sun, and the sleep moment of the leaves of certain plants at night are also due to turgor movement. So if you have noticed plant of amla or tamarind or something similar like those which looks like the touch me not kind of leaves, they usually close at night. Or even that bahava, golden shower tree, that they all closes their leaves, and the leaves kind of droop down at in the evening time, and they stay throughout like that over the night, and they again regains their turgidity and they start over their function again. So these are just few examples of turgor movement. That is, first one touch me not, second insectivorous, and third is the bending movement of flowers, as well as the sleep movement of certain leaves. Now, sleep movement does not literally mean they sleep. Yeah, it is just the moment is something like sleep because it is associated with the night phenomenon. Okay, so that is the uses of turgidity. Does anyone have any question here? Okay, so then we will move on to the next part, that is root pressure. Now, so though we had quickly and briefly looked at what the root pressure is, we need to still see it a little more detail because it is one of the very, very important phenomena which is leading to all these processes in the plant. So root pressure, like we had seen earlier also in terms of definition, because of the continuous flow of the movement of water, which is absorbed by the root hair cells, they will move upward by cell to cell osmosis, and that happens because of the cell sap content. So it is ultimately a force or hydrostatic pressure that is related to water, pressure related to water, generated in the roots, that helps in driving the fluids and other ions from the soil upward direction into the plant's vascular tissue, that is xylem. So again, a simple thing, it is a force which is generated into the roots. Why is it generated? Because the osmosis is happening, which will lift the the fluid and with the ions upward, and that will conduct the like the movement of water towards the leaf of the plant, and that is happening through a xylem tissue. And this process is obviously produced by the osmotic pressure in the cells of the root that we already know. Root pressure is more common during the spring season before the leaves develop and the rate of transpiration is rapid. Spring is usually known as the, colorful season. And before the leaves develop in there, the new leaves, the rate of transpiration is rapid. So that's the one of the common phenomena associated with the spring season. Now, the effects of this root pressure can only be seen during nights. Now, why at nights? Because obviously the temperature drops down, and in the early mornings, again, because there is change in the temperature as well as the humidity, as the rate of evaporation is very low at night because it is associated with the temperature and humidity. So the rate of evaporation at night is low. So obviously, and the roots, they are still absorbing water. So whatever the water is absorbed, it is excess, and that will be like kind of coming out through the leaf structure. That is, early in the morning, why you see those dew drops on the leaves is because of this phenomenon. And of course, because of the moisture content in the environment, but that is like because of the already water in the environment. This we are specifically talking due to the absorption of the root and absorption of the water by the roots and due to the root pressure. And the main contribution of the root pressure here is to establish the continuous movement of water molecules in the xylem. Now, the reason why root keeps absorbing water is they have to keep continuous movement. Otherwise, imagine a chunk of water is getting transported and then there is no water. And then again, next chunk comes. That does not happen. Why? Because those cells in the meantime, they will not have water. So it is like a continuous flow of the water. It's like, we have a water pipeline system to till our home and we have 24/7 water. Something same analogy. And which can be affected by the transpiration. Again, because of the changes in the temperature in the surrounding environment, transpiration will change, and ultimately the continuous movement of the water will also get affected, because more amount of water is lost during transpiration, you may not see the turgor movement. But if there is less water getting evaporated during transpiration, obviously you will see the turgor moment or the root pressure very clearly. Okay, now how exactly does this root pressure is built up? So the mechanism of root pressure, and we also have one beautiful diagram. Yeah, I know people just look at it and they say it's so complicated, but it is not. So the same diagram, instead of studying this particular diagram, what we are going to do is we are going to study this first. So the mechanism is very clear. So for example, let's say this is the root here. Yeah, and this is the outermost cell of the root. Yeah, so there will be layers of this. So again, on the top there will be epidermis, cortex, endodermis, pericycle. Same down also, epidermis, cortex, endodermis, and pericycle, and so on. So these are all the different structures which are present in the root. So if I have to show you this particular diagram, let me just quickly show you this, because otherwise this will become root cross section, dicot root, I should say. Yeah, I hope you all can see my screen. Let me show you this one. Not really good though. Maybe this one. Yeah, no, this is too small, but sorry. It is like a mandala. So I guess I don't have a better diagram. Yeah, this is fine. So what you are looking at is this epidermis, then cortex, then endodermis, and then your xylem and phloem vessels. So when you look at this diagram, it is epidermis, cortex. Now just the direction is opposite, but outermost to the innermost of the root, where the xylem is located. You are looking at this diagram, and this is just the schematic representation. So epidermis, cortex, endodermis, pericycle, and xylem. So if I show you this in this diagram, this is the epidermis. The black thing that you see is the epidermis. Then this is the cortex, this round cells that you see. Then this inner like kind of red border that you see, that is endodermis. And then you have pericycle, which is in blue. And these round ball-like structure, they are nothing but your xylem and phloem tissue. So that way the arrangement. So what you are looking at is the water absorption from the epidermis towards the center, that is through the xylem, which will be conducted upward in the plant. So now in this case, see, you can already see the arrows, they are also shown. So the water will get absorbed by the outermost layer of the root, that is epidermis. Then water will transfer through the cortex layers, which is a different layer of cells altogether. through this plasmodesmata. Plasmodesmata are nothing but a connecting junction, which are like tubular structures between neighboring cells in the plants. That is plasmodesmata. And through cortex, then it will go into the endodermis. From endodermis, it will go into the pericycle. From pericycle, it will enter into the xylem. And because this movement is continuous, so there is no gap, the whatever is in the xylem will be pushed upward, and this flows continues. And if you look here, these arrows which are shown here in the plasma membrane space, they also conduct a certain water. We will see those movements. They are called as apoplastic and symplastic movement. But as of now, what you need to understand is how is the root pressure built up. So obviously water is being transported through different layers of the root, and then ultimately it enters xylem. So the xylem will again have water filled in, and it will keep pushing it upward because the flow of absorption of water is continuous through the root. This particular structure, Casparian strip, is a kind of hydrophobic membrane which is located around the xylem and phloem pericycle. So outside the pericycle, usually just next to endodermis, that is the Casparian strip. And this is something like, you have a leak proof mechanism of the wall, right? So that let's say on the terrace, you have lot of water stored in the water tank, and which is made up of cement, and you don't want that water to trickle down inside your room or house. So you do kind of a coating of certain material or certain cement, which does not allow leaking of water. Casparian strip is something like that. It is a leak proof hydrophobic material, so that it does not leak out the water from xylem back into the epidermis. Yeah, so it only allows the one directional movement of water. So ultimately it is helping in the building up of the pressure. Again, we need not go into these details of the functions of Casparian strip, but just because it is given in the diagram, I explained it in a bit. So that is the continuous movement. Now when we go back to the main diagram of the root here, there we will understand this in more detail. This we finished. Okay, so now again, if you cut off the shoot of a plant, the water will push out from the root stump. Stump is nothing but just the leftover of the tree trunk. When you cut a tree, whatever is left next to the ground, that is called as stump. So if you cut off the shoot of the plant, and water will push out from the root stump, this is usually due to the root pressure. Root pressure is built up again due to the cell to cell osmosis in the root tissue, as one target cell presses the next cell, and the force of flow of water is increased inward as in towards the xylem tissue from the epidermis. When the water reaches the xylem vessel, that is centrally placed in vertical channels. Vertical channel as in xylem and phloem, they are like upright tubes. It will enter the pores of their thick walls and considerable force. So I hope you remember those what we call it tracheids and so on. And in case of phloem, these are sieve tubes and so on. So those tubular structure from xylem and phloem, they will conduct all of this water with upward moment with sufficient force. And thus the root pressure is one of the force to raise the water up through the stem into the leaves. And this force alone cannot push the up to the top of the tall tree. So in that case, transpiration is also one of the force which is helping the root pressure to build up. We will see that particular part in the chapter transpiration. But just to give you a brief idea, so the water is getting absorbed by the root, it is pushing, but it cannot push up to the height of the plant or height of the tree. Let's say height of the tree is 50 meters, right? So that much pressure is not there with the root to push the water up. Imagine it's against the gravity, and it's pushing the content of the water also upward. So that root pressure is not sufficient. So what there is another force which is called as transpiration force, or which is also called as suction force. So as and when the water is there in the leaf is pushing out the water through evaporation, that is transpiration. Now because of that, kind of suction force is generated, because of there is kind of empty space like thing. It's like you connect, like you have a big tube and you put the other end of the tube into a water in a bucket, and the other end in your mouth, and you suck in the water. Like because of the suction, you are pulling the water towards you. Something like that transpiration does when the leaf is allowing that transpiration of the water to happen. So that is the suction force which is generated. Now in addition, root pressure is from down, suction pressure is from the top, and that is when the water can reach to the top of the tall tree. But root pressure alone is not sufficient to do that. So that is the concept with this root pressure. I have a feeling. Okay, let me just finish this root pressure. Now, during the root pressure, the water will pass through the root tissues freely. Obviously, there is a cell wall and the cell membrane, which are kind of semi-permeable. Cell wall is freely permeable, but cell membrane is semi-permeable. But minerals, they do not. Water can pass through these layers of the root hair cells, but minerals cannot, because the root is a semi-permeable barrier, that is the root hair cell membrane. And as per the natural phenomena of the osmosis, the water molecule can naturally flow in the area of low mineral concentration to high mineral concentration. But like that is the normal osmosis definition. And this flow of water into the root pressurizes it. Pressurizes it as in it will create a certain pressure. So that is what will happen. And this process of osmosis is common in both animal cell as well as the plant cell. Now, for example, in non-woody plants as in like, grass-like plants, the osmosis allows the plant cells to accumulate water into the stem-like structure and then pump, and be plump enough. That is, I don't know, kind of like they just store water inside those stem-like structure. That is what is plump structure, which is kind of squishy. So once you squeeze it out, the water will come out. So that's something like that. That is plump enough to keep the plant upright. So that is the mechanism with which those grass-like plants they function. For trees, the wood is still sclerenchyma is there, so that is relatively hard. There is enough lignin, plus there is enough turgor pressure, so it will keep the plant upright. But in case of this grass category of the plant, there is no such hard wood structure. No, and that is why it needs lot of water, so that turgid pressure is built up because of the root pressure, and then it will keep the grass upright. So you would have seen, like usually those grass families, like if you have planted something from the grass family inside your house, and if you don't water, the wilting is faster compared to the normal regular dicot trees. Root pressure can be easily observed when the trees are chopped down. This we had already seen during the spring season. When a particular tree is chopped or sawed down, then we can generally see that stump that bleeds the sap. Bleeds the sap as in the content oozes out, because there is still roots will keep absorbing the water, so it will push the content out, and that is the ultimately oozing out of those cell sap. Now, this part we can do it in the next class, but let's have a look at this diagram. Yeah, forget about the arrows. Yeah, the arrows, they are shown here in a wrong direction. Let me point it, but because this was one of the good diagram available, I just took it. I will replace it later, but for the time being, arrows, they are exactly opposite than where they are pointed. Yeah, so let's say the root hair will absorb water. It will go into this epidermal layer, then it will go into the cortex. This is like these big cells. From the cortex, it will go into the endodermis. You can see these columnar cells, that is endodermis. Then it will enter pericycle, and from pericycle it will enter into the xylem cells, which are double layered here shown. And from xylem it will be moved upward. So that is the movement of water due to the root pressure. So when you have to draw this diagram, ideally you should draw a diagram like this, but just don't get confused so much or overwhelmed with the complexity of the diagram. It's nothing but you have to draw epidermis, which is again a columnar like cell, a root hair cell, and then you have to draw certain irregular shaped cells, which are cortex, then a layer of endodermis cell. Like we have epidermis, we have endodermis. Within endodermis we have pericycle, and then xylem and phloem cells. So that's how this flow of the water works. Okay, so let me stop here. If there are any questions, I can take it. Otherwise,